I don't like this trend to just like push shots beyond the breaking point, because at a certain point it becomes masturbatory, like once it's no longer functioning for the story. Hi, I'm Ari Aster, and these are apparently my best shots. You quoted me saying that the way I work is that I do a shot list before I do anything else, which is not quite how I work now, but that is true of Hereditary and Midsommar. And so you're asking me what was the first shot that I devised, and that would probably be the opening shot of the seance scene when Toni Collette wakes up her family and drags them downstairs because she has successfully performed a seance where she's brought back her dead daughter, Charlie.
Why are you scaring me? What the hell?
Just because that was kind of a big scene that sort of functioned as like a set piece, sort of, just felt like a good place to start. It's, it might be a little fussy, but the longer the take, the longer the shot, the more marks there are to hit, the harder it is to even gauge which take is the one. Because sometimes you're looking at the technical aspects of the shot and they're not perfect, and you're almost missing just how great the performances are, and that's something you don't really see until you're in the edit. And I'll always take a technically flawed take that has great performances and is really alive over a technically perfect, but otherwise kind of, something where the actors are just not all the way in it. And that's something I've had to really learn too, because I am such a technically minded director that it's sometimes very painful to like allow the technical blemish, but but now I've kind of pounded it into my system to just never favor camera over performance.
Hail payment!
I don't know, it's hard. It's hard to choose a favorite shot. I like the last shot of Hereditary. I really like the opening shot of Hereditary. That's probably my favorite. It's the clearest idea. There's a metaphor there, and it's such an obvious metaphor, or it's so clear that I hate to expound on it any further. But yes, it is a film about a family that has no agency, and they are totally powerless, and they're dolls in a dollhouse. It's a very literal way of opening the film, but I think it really worked. So maybe I'll change it to say, opening shot of Hereditary is my favorite shot in Hereditary. I don't know what the first shot that I designed was. I do remember that the opening was very vivid for me in my mind, especially just the close-up of Danny and just making sure to just hold on that and not cut from it, like have no other coverage for that, which is a very simple shot, but it was kind of like driving me through a lot of the writing of that film. Just like, I just know that I want to meet this person here in her life in this way.
What if I'm scaring him off?
What did your sister write?
Just some ominous bullshit like she always does, and it's torture.
Probably the first sequence that I designed was the attest upon sequence, where the two older people who had come to the end of their life jumped off the cliff. That's usually the case, is that I'll begin with the set pieces.
What you just saw is a long observed custom.
Custom?
Yes.
It's
Especially because I try to not only do shot lists for those, but I also storyboard those so that the crew can see them and so that we're all on the same page as far as what we're doing.
So we're just gonna ignore the bear then?
It's a bear.
A shot that was maybe more difficult than others to execute might be at the end, at the very beginning of the fire temple sequence, where we begin on the wheel of a wheelbarrow and we're zooming out of it while tracking alongside it, and then we kind of drift forward once we have full frame of Pele pushing the wheelbarrow. We then kind of drift forwards while still tracking left, and then boom up and tilt down to now have a bird's eye view of Mark's body stuffed with straw in the wheelbarrow. We stay with that and then allow them to walk forward, and we tilt up to become like a high angle wide shot of the temple. Well, first of all, it's visual storytelling, so you want to tell the story in an interesting way. And it felt like it was in line with the language, the visual language of the film. I do like sustaining shots as long as they work. I don't like this trend to just like push shots beyond the breaking point, because at a certain point it becomes masturbatory. Like once it's no longer functioning for the story outside of just being an impressive shot. But the challenge of how long can we sustain this and have it be supporting the scene, supporting the film, and adding dynamism to the storytelling, you know, that's what it's about. My favorite, I don't know. I mean, what is my favorite shot in the film? There's one shot in the film when Danny is tripping and we follow her around after she stands up under the tree and goes to the outhouse. I like that shot a lot. I also like the shot that opens that scene where they're all kind of just sitting out in the grass and we're pushing very slowly towards them to finally kind of land on a close-up of Danny's face, and then she looks down at her hand and the grass is growing out of her hand, so she's hallucinating.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Well, there are a lot of difficult shots. I would say him running across the street and into the convenience store was a very hard scene to choreograph and really satisfying once we nailed it. I really love that shot.
Oh my God. I'm calling the police!
There are also certain shots that you wouldn't think were so hard. There's a big moment when he's at his mother's house at the end. We suddenly cut wide and we have this kind of diorama view of the entire house. It's 3 stories, and then he starts walking up the stairs and we kind of we drift in to then land over his shoulder at the top of the stairs. That is not the most complicated shot in the film, except for the fact that we had all these pillars in the house that were making it impossible to get that shot. You know, it looks like it's just maybe a techno crane and all you have to do is kind of drift forward, but in fact, there was a huge amount of dolly track, and it was a jib arm where in order to just do that straight movement, the grip had to push the dolly forward 15 feet and pull it back at exactly the right time, or maybe vice versa. It might have been a pull back and a push forward, and you know, he's doing this in time with the operator who's manning the jib arm, and it was just a very difficult shot to execute. But I'm very happy with how it turned out, and it was worth the trouble. I mean, there were a lot. Beau has a lot of complicated shit going on. This was a film where, because I knew New Mexico so well, it was really a texture that I had in my mind, and it was just me wanting to make a film that felt and looked like New Mexico, and just had that New Mexico aesthetic, which is so indelible, and I know it so well. And I would say, for me, if I had to pick a favorite shot, it would be Joe is a character played by Joaquin Phoenix, arriving at Pedro Pascal's, his character's fundraiser party. He plays a mayor named Ted Garcia, and Joe walks into the party to address a noise complaint. That's a scene that I think really ended up working beautifully, and you know, was actually originally written as like a dialogue scene, and it became kind of clear to me that it's not time for talking. This is a scene of action and behavior, And it was a really tricky shot to get. It was Steadicam. It was tricky to nail, and I just love Joaquin's performance in it. I love that we're kind of with him for all of it, and it's a scene I'm really pleased with. Oh, I mean, there's so many to choose from. I mean, so many come to mind, but I don't want to say the obvious thing. Like, you know, it would be very obvious to say, like, the Copacabana shot from Goodfellas, or, I mean, I could name almost any shot from Casino. So I'll try to stay away from Scorsese, just because I'm sure that's the answer you get every time. Although he's the king of a sustained, prolonged Steadicam shot. Let me think here. Who are the people that inspired him? Max O'Fools. I could say something from any one of his films, especially The Earrings of Madame de.
Plutôt que de me séparer de cette rivière, je préférerais me jeter à l'eau.
I Am Cuba would have been important for him. 8.5. In fact, I'll try to find something from 8.5 because that's probably as far as just camera is concerned, that's my favorite camera. In 8.5, I particularly love the dream sequence with his harem of women. So much of that film is just, it's really just like an endless succession of like really long, beautifully choreographed, swirling shots that are often sustained for like several minutes, but they're also so beautifully sequenced that 4 shots will feel very much attached. So for maybe 10 minutes, you're watching what feels like kind of like one fluid dancing gesture where the camera is dancing with the actors, and it's so beautifully blocked. And you know, anybody who is a fan of what Scorsese does with the camera, I would say most of them probably will be familiar with Fellini in 8.5, but if you're not, it's a film that really deserves its reputation, and it's definitely a film I go to a lot when I'm preparing to make a film, just to remind myself how free you can be with the form. So I would say, let's say that.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching our latest episode of My Best Shots with Ari Aster. If you want to watch more of My Best Shots, check out our recent episode with Danny Boyle. Or be sure to check out our Art of the Scene on the Goodfellas Copal Water featuring the film's Steadicam op Larry McConkey. And of course, be sure to subscribe to CineFix.